What is the most disturbing fact you know? How did you even find that out?
Whales are mammals, meaning that they produce milk. However, whale milk comes out almost solid, presumably because they're underwater, which, theoretically, makes it whale cheese rather than milk. My cousin was doing an shift. Had a guy come in with gonorrhea in his colostomy. Apparently he made enough money to cover the treatment for it. The African bull elephant creates the largest bowel movement of any land mammal. Curiosity and Google. I used to watch a lot of autopsies and documentaries about them, and apparently dead bodies can have spasms that make it look like the person is still alive or moving before rigor mortis fully sets in. Nearly 1/3 of the world's population depend on the Himalayas for water. That includes China, India, and Pakistan, all of which are nuclear powers. But due to climate change, every year the amount of water that comes from the Himalayas is shrinking and the rate water loss is speeding up. By sometime in 2050-2060, all of the rivers coming from the Himalayas will dry up and virtually all of the glaciers will have melted and the mountains, like Mount Everest, will be snow-capped. And well before 2050 there will be around 1 billion more people that requires water from Himalayas than the Himalayas will be able to produce. Last year in Pakistan's largest city, several thousand people died of thirst because city water dried up due to shrinking water from the Himalayas. Also, Chinese and Indian forces in 2020-2021 fought each other over a border dispute that is getting more and more serious as their water supplies are shrinking. Last month several thousand people were killed when Kyrgyz and Tajik's armies fought each other, that resulted from shrinking well water supply and rivers that dried up due to shrinking water from the Himalayas. Some Russian tanks don't have proper safety design, with the autoloading mechanisms cutting off limbs if anyone isn't careful. As for how I know this, I can't quite recall. Maybe the Tank Museum YouTube channel, maybe some other places. There is a species of parasite that preys on fish. No biggie, right? Well, said parasite attaches itself to the fish's tongue, causing the tongue to basically shrivel up and die. The parasite takes over the role of the tongue for the fish. It doesn't even look like a fucking tongue, it's like a big old pillbug thingy living in the fish's mouth. That China is basically doing some fucked up shit to Uyghur Muslims. I found out through a TikTok and not even the news, and I never see any news or information about it, even though apparently everyone is aware. There is apparently a fetish for gay men. Some gay men that are HIV positive only gets turned on by other men that are HIV positive. I found out, when talking about fetishes is a broad subject with someone at some point 8 years ago. I was not really shocked, as in shaken to my core. I was just shocked that this is even a thing that exists. In class my health teach, this old ass lady was like, "Hey kids, wanna know a cool fact about sex?" The class was like, "Sure." Me not caring less was like, "Okay, I guess I can hear a fact." Teacher. Most parents have sex 3 or more times a week. Me realizing this means grandparents. At least 50,000 Azerbaijanis, Lezgis, Tats, and Jewish people were massacred by Armenians and Russians after World War I. Yet most of the world doesn't know or forgets that fact. The atrocities Armenia and Russia committed against Azerbaijan sadly are way too overlooked in history. That incest and pedophilia run rampant in Hollywood circles. I met this dude, the son of some producer, at a drag bar, who told me all of this stuff about how his mom would make him do sexual things with her. But it wasn't a big deal because all the exec kids had to do similar things, so it never felt weird to him. He had a lot of stories like this, and TBH, I don't know that I believe them. The only reason that I give it some credit is that he dropped Weinstein's and Epstein's name, as well as some others. It was only like a month ago that the interaction popped into my head. Aortic aneurysms. Even if you're healthy you could have one. If they rupture you're dead within seconds and no one can do anything to save your life, if you're not already in an OR. Found out about that when I started working in EMS. Completely healthy people just drop dead without prior warning. I find it disturbing but probably more of a sad fact. We as people don't tell others people, wife, husband, kids, parents, thank you enough. So take the time and tell your friends and family thank you today. I found this out through a news article one read a few years ago. First few I could think of have already mentioned, so pulling one out of the hat. Upwards of 6,500 migrant workers have died building the infrastructure in Qatar in preparation for them to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Yay, you heard me. That is a country that still criminalizes same-sex relationships, amongst other things, hosting a sporting event which is supposed to go beyond barriers. The crew on the Challenger shuttle likely survived the initial explosion and were alive and conscious all the way to the ground. There's unconfirmed reports audio of that time exists that contains members of the crew doing things from swearing, screaming, and praying. I used to watch a lot of autopsies and documentaries about them, and apparently dead bodies can have spasms that make it look like the person is still alive or moving before rigor mortis fully sets in. That China is basically doing some fucked up shit to Uyghur Muslims. I found out through a TikTok and not even the news, and I never see any news or information about it even though apparently everyone is aware. There is a species of parasite that preys on fish. No biggie, right? Well, said parasite attaches itself to the fish's tongue, causing to the tongue to basically shrivel up and die. The parasite takes over the role of the tongue for the fish. It doesn't even look like a fucking tongue, it's like a big old pillbug thingy living in the fish's mouth.